There's a lot that we don't talk about, sometimes due to embarrassment, fear, insecurities. We neglect discussions about the most common parts of our lives, things we all deal with, sometimes every day. But on the Caffeinated Gypsy podcast, together, we'll break all of those taboos and talk open and honest about shared experiences. Knowledgeable people relating things you felt but never put into words. Parenting, sex, fitness, energy, anything to connect you to your authentic self, unfiltered. Now, the Caffeinated Gypsy herself, a free spirit, world traveler with a passion for fitness and exploring topics that others might avoid. Welcome to the Caffeinated Gypsy podcast. I'm Stephanie Cotton, your host. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. Today I'm going to be going into the second week of the Root Chakra Journal. So if you're following along, we are about to move forward. Before we get started, just as always, a quick reminder, if you like the show, head over to iTunes and give us a like, and also sign up so you can get updates when the podcast comes out. And you can always head over to my website, stephanie-cotton.com, and get all the updates on what I have going on. All right, so week 2 of the root chakra. I know I'm a little behind. Technically, this is like the end of the second week, but it's been a little crazy. We just had Samhain, which is also Halloween to a lot of people. So for me personally, I really resonate with seasons and celebrating seasons. And for me, Halloween time is always a very active period. If you listen to my last podcast on spirit guides, this is usually when I get a lot of information from my spirit guides. So I've been really busy and really over inundated with a lot of information. So I've been doing the root work, but it's just kind of, I've been a bit slow at being able to create a podcast for it. So I gave you guys the first week, which was an assignment to go outside and really allow your feet to touch the earth. And I actually spent the week of this in the mountains, which was huge for me. And my husband also was with me, and we had this conversation a few days ago that he was very strongly affected by that trip we had in the mountains, for his root chakra specifically. And hopefully I can get him on the podcast soon. He can actually speak to this himself, because I think it's important to hear a male perspective on healing your root. But he noticed, without even really trying, that the energy just from being outdoors for a few days, specifically like in the mountains, we were in like forest area hiking, that it really opened up a lot of stuff in his root chakra, and he was actually kind of having a hard time processing some of that. So it's very normal when you start spending more time outside, especially if you're consciously trying to connect with the earth, to physically feel that. Some of the ways this can manifest is hip pain, lower back pain, leg pain. For some women, we may even just feel this in our pelvic area. So if any of those things have started to come up for you, or maybe you didn't even correlate those two things together, that's very normal. We're moving energy into the root area, and we're working on removing blockages. So when we're trying to remove blockages or stagnation, sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable, especially since there are times where this area becomes kind of numb. We kind of shut off feeling to this area because it is so riddled with trauma and emotion, and it can be difficult. So if you noticed after this first week, or if you're even moved into your second week, that maybe you had some discomfort in those areas, that's completely normal, and it does get better. The best thing you can do is keep working on it and keep kind of processing and pulling stuff out. If you're noticing these things, I would also try to see like what's going on mentally. What kind of things are you thinking about? What's going on in your life? See if you can kind of correlate the physical symptoms with the emotional and psychological symptoms you may be having as well. We also held my root chakra class last week, which was amazing. It's always really profound when you're able to do some really concentrated work with people on their root for, a few hours in a very small space with people that are, trying to heal. So we did some really deep release rituals, and it's been really awesome to watch. And also too, just, as you're working through this, know that you're going to process stuff. Like, I had a text from one of the girls after that workshop I did and was like, I'm really mad today and I'm really emotional. Is that normal? Absolutely. Because we're releasing pent up emotion. We're releasing pent up trauma. So it's got to come out some way. So when those things happen, if you're journaling and you're getting upset or you're doing these exercises and you're feeling emotional, allow that to come out. These are releases. And we really want this to come out so that we're not holding on to this, because we're trying to release all these layers of trauma that we have on this area. So last week we had a journal assignment about just writing about our relationship with our root chakra. And it may be something that you did that you didn't even realize as you were writing how you felt about it, or maybe afterwards you thought about it. So I encourage you to continue this process of checking in with your relationship with your root. I know on a very personal level, I've always had a really hard time loving that area. And a lot of that's because I felt betrayed in a lot of ways. So my personal journey has been trying to learn how to really love that area. My root and sacral chakra have always caused me what I would consider a great deal of pain. And that's because I received trauma at such a young age. It just never really developed properly. And so my journey in this life has been to learn how to love those areas and embrace those areas and almost embrace my trauma in a way that I understand now that, everything that I've gone through has kind of led me to where I'm at right now. And while anger is a very normal emotion and healthy in a lot of ways, I encourage you to find ways to process your anger so you can move past that and go on to the next phase of healing. Anger holds a lot of pain in the body. So when we're able to start releasing some of that anger, it gets less painful in the body. So week 2, the mantra for this week is I am grounded. The root chakra is all about being grounded and stable. So this is the mantra that we're going to be repeating. The physical activity for this week is going to be chakras. It's going to be squats. Squats are a great way to really get you to, one, feel your body, engage the muscles of the root area, and to ground you to the earth. So if this is a movement you're new to, I encourage you to go on YouTube. There's tons of videos that will show you how to squat properly. I'm not going to, tout CrossFit a ton in this, but they do have really good demo videos. So if you're looking for a good demo video, I do highly recommend at least going to CrossFit's website. If you go on YouTube, there's tons of CrossFit videos that'll show you how to squat properly. But what's really important when you're doing your squat is to engage all of your muscles. Specifically, you want to really think about engaging your glute muscles, your hamstrings, your quads. Everything should be engaged. Your core muscles are tight. You want to really think about everything being very tight when you're doing this, because we want to bring energy to this area. We want to warm this area up. And then when you're doing the actual squat, I want you to think about this as a meditative practice. And I know that it sounds kind of crazy when you think about squatting and meditation, but this really is a meditative practice. So we're thinking about bringing energy up from the earth as we squat down, squeezing those muscles and pulling all that energy back up into our root chakra. So every time you squat, you're thinking about bringing that energy up. So you can do this as a red light. You can do this as a white sparkly light, whatever works for you. But you really want to think about bringing that energy up every single time. And then once we got that energy to the root area, I'll let you kind of go with that. But sometimes I think about that energy coming to my root, waking it up, and then just shooting straight out my head. And then other times, depending on how I'm feeling that day, sometimes I think about bringing that energy up to my root chakra and then shooting it back down and giving it back to the earth, pulling out all that stagnation. So I'm a very visual person. So whatever works for you. If you're not a very visual person, do what works for you. But I do encourage you to kind of think about bringing that energy up to the root and then, pulling out any stagnation or anything that's not working for you. And to make sure you're breathing as you're doing this. Okay, so you're going to take a big breath in at the top of your squat. And then as you're coming up from the bottom of that squat, you want to exhale. All right, so as far as the amount, I would encourage you to do maybe 3 sets of 10 for this. If you are comfortable with adding weight to the bar, even better. Weight is a really great way to get you nice and grounded. And then another exercise that I encourage people to do with the squats is every time you go to the bathroom, do 5 squats. And that's a really great way to keep you grounded through the day. And it also starts to really tone those muscles. And as we tone those muscles around there, we start to really create our own protection of the root versus the guarding that we have on there. Okay. All right. So physical activity this week is squats. And then for your journal assignment, we are going to burn it. This is one of my favorite releasing exercises. So I encourage you to do this during a time when you can really sit and reflect. For some people, this can be an emotional exercise. It can be almost hard sometimes to release what we've been holding on to. So you're going to write down on a piece of paper that you're okay with burning things that have happened to you that you think have affected your root chakra. And I know the first time we do this, sometimes we're like, I don't know. So I want you to kind of just put this out there into the universe. And if you need to think about it for a day or two, think about it. But even if you're like, I don't know exactly, but I think like this moment is what happened, or this situation, I think it's okay, write it down. And if you know very specifically, like there's some people that are like, I know exactly, like this is what damaged my root. So typically things that damage our root or anything that interfered with our ability to feel secure, if we've any type of abuse, disease, illnesses, things like that, those are all things, money problems, relationship issues, these are all things that affect our root. So write those things down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to think about sending love to each of those situations and then love to yourself. And then you're going to light this on fire. And as it burns, I want you to think about sending love and healing to the situation and especially to yourself. All right. Now, this can be difficult sometimes, but we want to always send love out because that's what's going to help us heal. And we really want to focus on healing ourselves in this process. So we're sending ourselves a lot of love. And anytime you feel like you need to come back to this exercise, come back to it. I tend to do an exercise like this seasonally. So as we change seasons, I tend to do like just a burning ritual just to let go of anything that's really like holding on, anything that could cause any kind of damage or restrictions. Because when we hold on to all this shit, it really does prevent us from welcoming new, clean, good energy, positive things in our life. So we really want to clear all this shit out so we can make space for healthy things and healthy experiences. So that is our assignment for this week. See how you do with this. If you have questions, shoot me an email. If you just want to kind of share what you are experiencing, feel free to share this, especially on Instagram. If you're open to that, sharing it, because there's a lot of people that are doing the same exact exercises with you. And, it's nice to sometimes hear that other people are processing the same things. Also, we're starting a new segment on the show where you can email me or message me questions that you want to have answered. So I'm compiling all of these questions and topics, and I'll be doing a show dedicated to that very soon. So as you're working through these things, if you come up with things that you'd like to have answered on the podcast, let me know. It can be anonymous, or I'm happy to share who it came from if that is what you would like as well. So best of luck in this week's journey into your root, and I will return next week with week 3. Bye.
For all the people who judge without knowing, just throw the peace, I tell them good vibes only.